Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast with Robert Heyder. This is a no-fluff podcast where we dig deep into the journey of scaling your real estate investing and wholesaling business and discuss how to break into commercial real estate investing. All right, welcome everyone to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. Very, very exciting day here. We got Aaron Pimpus out of Florida. Really exciting guy. I've known him for a couple of years now. He's been in the virtual wholesaling space for at least 2 years. Had a little bit of real estate experience prior to that, but primarily came from the medical software sales, kind of private equity world, which is a really interesting kind of layer into his story. And then 9 months ago or so, he rolled out Launch Control, which is one of the kind of leading text marketing apps out there, text marketing softwares out there. I've just heard amazing things. We've just started kind of bridging into using it. We've been working with some of the other software services out there, but I'm very, very excited. But without any further ado, Aaron, what do you got for us? Did I get everything right there?
Yeah. I think you nailed it. Yeah, just exciting times. I mean, we're recording this on the 8th?
Yeah, so 8th of April.
It's interesting times. Again, we were just briefly talking about this, before we jumped online in terms of what's going on. I mean, I think the seller side is going to continue being easy because for us, it's been virtual since day one. So we've done hundreds of transactions. I've never set a foot inside of our title company. Never really seen a house. We heavily rely on on inspectors, and I can kind of go through that a little bit more. I think we're one of the few people that actually do that.
Yeah,
that's been very, very useful for us. We can kind of go unpack that a little bit more later on. But the challenging part now, is like we're talking about, is potentially the B2C side. I don't think it has reached inland as much, in terms of like what we're dealing with here. I have a couple friends in Miami that are like, dude, like nobody's buying anything. Whether either one, their funding has dried up, or two, they do have the funding, but they also are reading the same thing that you and I are, kind of the same stuff that Blackstone's reading, where it's like, look, we're going to see how much of the hit the market takes in a month or two, and then we're going to open up the floodgates, which actually, it's part of our strategy, and we can kind of unpack that as well in terms of, what to do in these times.
Yeah.
Definitely can't stop marketing, but what I do with launch users is, we'll touch on some of the biggest takeaways for anybody that's not virtual wholesaling now, what's been working for us. But what I do for launch users, because I saw there's three things that you need to do to survive this kind of the uncharted territory that we're in, right?
Oh yeah.
One's going to be to have the lowest cost and highest ROI, whatever that is. That could be still direct mail, that could still be PPC. For most people, it is texting, right? Or going through your old leads, which we've done, and I'll kind of discuss that also. Two is adapting to virtual, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys are locked down yet in St. Louis.
We are, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I should say, stay in place is currently kind of enacted. Real estate's a subsector that we have the ability to go out.
Correct.
But a vast majority, the folks that we can get in front of, only about 25% of them really want us to be there, and we're trying to keep our sales folks safe anyway. So we've been directing and kind of directing the course towards the virtual route here for the last week or so.
Have a solution for that also, because at one point they still need to get in there, and guess who they trust. They don't trust you or your guy Joey to come in there, because Joey is just Joey, right? But it sounds better than Joey, a state licensed property inspector with an N95 mask. They're like, oh, well, when you put it that way, yeah, you can come in. I'll be outside. Yeah, he can do his thing. So that has a drastic impact on, how you could potentially shift the whole virtual model. So that's number two, is basically going 100% virtual. And number three is really going to be dialing in your messaging and also your exit, your B2C or your Dispo process. If you're not, and I'll go through what we've done, specifically, if you're not pivoting. So what we've done with maybe we can kind of start backwards a little bit, because I kind of ended on that point. But on the Dispo side, we're trying to go through all of our VAPs, have the conversations. Like, hey, look, we're still in business. We're going to be around. We have the properties. What are you looking for? What neighborhoods? What properties? I mean, like, we're still picking some up ourselves, which we are, if it makes sense, right? Give me your buy box. I'm not really working with too many other people. So if we're looking specifically for what you want, I want to know that. But you have to have those conversations. Can't text, can't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we've modified our buyer marketing to include rental comps. We actually put in there the cap rate, not the gross, but the net. And that creates credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also include like a screenshot of Rentometer, screenshot of Zillow, Zestimate rent, if it makes sense, if it's in our favor, right? Along with ARV comps, that kind of stuff, right? So all the usual, the write-up, the expected monthly rent, the cap rate, at least 10 pictures of the property, and at the bottom we say, click here for the inspection report, or reply back for inspection report. And that creates a lot of credibility for the buyers because they have a certain, we kind of develop a certain reputation, or you can as well, so can your listeners, where you're doing all the work for them. Not only are you running the comps, you're providing the market analysis and showing them how much this can cash flow, but you're also showing them repairs, right? Because we include the repairs in the net cap rate, right? Because it's part of it. But we're also showing as like, look, we've done the work. We had a state license inspector in there, and we have an SOP for that, where it's like a 4-point inspection. Typically should cost $100 to $150 depending on what you are, and probably these days more like $100. And that allows you to essentially create credibility, not only with the seller, because one, you're doing legitimate work, but on the buy side, we'll come back to the seller in a minute, but on the buy side, you're providing something that nobody else is.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else is doing it. I'm looking for masterminds, right? But I'm the one that's telling people, please do this, because again, you create a lot more credibility with the buyer, and you're able to move properties probably sometimes even sight unseen if you have that good enough relationship. And lastly, what we'll try to do is a lot of buyers now are out of options or resources, and they're not maybe very resourceful. So we will put them in touch with like, a commercial broker, and it's a lender, not lending one or lending home, but actual broker who's still in business. He has access to like 50 commercial lenders. He'll be able to point him like where the money is, because if they're still interested in doing a light rehab and they need either a bridge loan, right? Might be slightly different terms, might need to put down more money, or they need to do a rental play, right? There are still people out there lending. It's just most of them are not as entrenched as we are into this world, and they just simply don't know what's going on there, right? So we try to deliver value to the sellers, to the buyers, as well as the sellers. We'll come back to that in a minute. But those are changes we made in the Dispo process, and again, just try to create the relationships and do more buy and hold type of scenarios for now.
Absolutely. No, I greatly appreciate that. One, just from what we're doing in our business, that's very helpful. And then I think anyone that's listening to this, and it should go live here in the next handful of days. So this one's going to go live pretty quickly, because it's so, it's so time sensitive, because we've been making that exact change. We cut back on our marketing for about the last 2.5 weeks, and we're getting ready to turn it back on. We kept the channels going that were very direct, right? So cold calling, texting, Facebook marketing. We've got a couple avenues in order to keep that direct versus, with the geo-targeting changes they've made. But we pulled back on some of our PPC, SEO, some of like the more kind of broad web-based channels just for the time being, but for now we're being very direct. And like you mentioned, we've been digging really, really deep into our buyer pool and figuring out who still has the ability to buy, who was leveraging big on hard money, because those folks are pretty well, kind of caught up and aren't doing a whole lot right now because they don't have access to funds. And then, kind of what buyers are still actively going. There's a few funds out there that are still trying to, buy inventory and are kind of trying to take advantage of the market a little bit. They're taking some assumptions on kind of where the dip is and where the bottom is to determine what value is.
We're working with one fund out of New York. We actually will call tomorrow. They're buying. We have a sign an A to B to them, B to C, with 60 days.
Yeah, that works.
They're cool with it. I don't know why, or what their reasoning is or their criteria, because some of them buy different thresholds or whatever tranche that it's a part of, right? And their risk tolerance. Some of them are going for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So whatever they're buying now, as long as the yield makes sense, you're in it. So we have a conference call set up tomorrow, and dude, we're like, whatever you guys are buying, we're gonna have it for you. You know what I mean? Like if you find one of those, that might be your ticket.
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's like, okay, well, if we can find those buyers, like, okay, if we can get one or two big groups that are buying and we know exactly what they want, and we can just direct marketing towards that group and saying, okay, what do you need? Let's just fill it up. And hey, here's your buy box, and here's what it would have been normally. Here's what it is now. It just gets tighter and tighter, right? Yep. And just really kind of working with them and kind of, and being the concierge, just saying, hey, I understand that you're buying at a deeper discount. We're going to have to do the same, but let's just kind of rock and see how many we can go. Yeah. So we've been pushing that pretty hard and having pretty good success. And then to your point earlier, figuring out who are the kind of mom and pop or the smaller groups that really need to stay busy. They need to keep buying, so folks that can either get local bank financing or they have access to loan brokers that can get them the money as needed. They're going to put down probably twice as much as they would before. But even in those scenarios, if we can buy the deals big enough, sometimes we'll take maybe a second, or we'll give back some of the profit in a second deed and get paid on the back in some instances. Yep. And then we have a funding arm with my company, Core Properties. We've got a funding arm too that does some hard money lending. So for the right deals with the right amount of cash in, we'll fund them as well. So we still have the ability to do that for the right borrowers, for the right buyers, to be able to make it work, which is a little bit unique.
And then we were talking about also the part of stimulus. I think most people are not aware, but there was a lot of relaxation of guidelines in terms of what you can do with your 401k and your IRA accounts. And I think they're just giving a lot more accessibility in terms of it doesn't have to be self-directed, that type of thing. But I think they're just giving people a lot more flexibility in how to access that. It hasn't been talked about. It's been mostly the SBA and the PPP stuff, et cetera. But there's been a lot of relaxation of guidelines. So I actually have an article, maybe we can post it in your group or notes for the podcast. But I think that's another way to do it, where you educate the buyers, like the mom and pop, et cetera, the ones that want to come in. Because we are working one right now. The guy's like, look, I got $75K to spend. That's all I got. Right, but I'm interested in the property, right? I'm game. So if you can set me up with one, and we're looking to make that happen. At the same time, if you can educate them, it's like, look, you got money stashed away. It's not doing anything for you. God knows what's going to happen with the market still. I mean, there might be a double bottom or a bear trap, which it might be in the works. It's just nobody knows. And a lot of people coming, and I personally know, private investors or people that were doing private money for us, they're just tired. They don't want to gamble with the market anymore. They don't want another 2008. Yeah. Definitely don't want what happened the last 2 to 3 weeks to happen again. They want that stable return. And I think it's a good opportunity to educate people, even if they're brand new. Dude, you're getting a rental. Here's your cap rate. This is where your money is going to. And I will help out wherever else we can. Here's a property management company, yada, yada, yada. But this is guaranteed money. And ask for 3 months up front now. You know what I mean? Ask for 3 months rent. We just did this on one of our properties because, again, we don't want to get somebody in there that's not going to pay immediately. So they did 3 months ahead. We had 3 months ahead, and we're going to probably turn into a lease option anyway once this is all kind of past or behind us. So getting creative on the B2C side is going to be, I think, the lifeline. Either it's going to work or not for a lot of people. Absolutely. No, and that's terrific. The 3 month in advance is a big piece. And then what we've been trying to do on the properties that we're selling on the B2C side to folks that are buying for rental purposes, we'll put 2 or 3 months up in escrow to ensure that their payments are coming in, so that the buyer can feel comfortable. Hey, we don't really want to buy rentals. We don't know if the rental income is going to be coming in the next few months. Who knows? Okay, well, we'll put a few $1,000s up in escrow. If it's needed, the tenant doesn't pay, you can pull on it. If not, we'll get it back on the at the end. But that way you can ensure that you've got 2 or 3 months coming in during this period. You can relax with your tenants. And, here's the deal. If we were going to give a $2,000 or $3,000 discount or $4,000 discount anyway to get a buyer, because buyers are harder to get right now, well, we might as well put it that way and then make sure that deal works for everybody, make it a little bit more marketable. The savvy folks are going to price it in anyway, but the folks that aren't super savvy and they don't own that many and they're not looking at it on a broad basis, that'll help them sleep a little bit better at night, kind of maybe pull the trigger a little bit quicker. But there's a lot of people that are on the sidelines that have been waiting for a time like this. Money put away. I know them personally. I know people that dumped their portfolios 2 to 3 years ago and they're cash heavy. They're literally just waiting for something like this to happen. It's just a matter of time before they start, or if you have a deal that makes sense for them to acquire in whatever neighborhood. That's why having those conversations is so critical. But that piece of advice you just gave, that's really good for entry level people. Take that additional, the risk or worry off the table. Absolutely. And if they're getting bank financing and they're getting, even private financing outside of hard money, that'll also help the lender get more comfortable with the deal, knowing they've got some reserves set aside to offset any kind of, concessions they might have to give the tenants over the next few months. Yeah, because things will come back to normal. You know, you'll be able to bridge out of like, you know, maybe bad loans as long as you're not locked in a pretty bad prepayment. So even if it's a year, whatever the case is, pretty sure the rate's going to stay low for a hot minute, even coming out. Right. So there's going to be opportunity to get out of bad loans and maybe underwrite loans for, you know, if you can't hard money, whatever the case is, like, you know, 6-month prepay, max, that type of thing. But at least you'll be able to get in and get out. But maybe switch it back to the seller side, right? So we've got to tackle the Dispo side first.
Well, let's hit on a couple quick points there just to conclude that, because I think there's a couple things I'd like to ask you, and I can just tell some of our listeners that we're doing as some strategies, because the Dispo side we've been leaning into real heavy, and then I'm really excited to hear what you have to say on the seller side, because you probably have more market data than almost anybody with launch control. But on the Dispo side, we've been making a big hard press to high net worth folks that we assume have cash, kind of going through finding that data, you know, from any list source that you kind of have access to. Melissa data is a good one for that. And then skipping that data and then dropping it into groups in Facebook so we can market to folks that might not otherwise have rentals. I think coupling that with your IRA conversation earlier might be a really good avenue too.
What kind of data are you pulling, Rob, from like most of the day? You said high network folks, but like how are you structuring that data itself?
Well, so we'll go in and figure out like, hey, who do we think is still making money now? Who would likely have a higher net worth? Sometimes we'll back into it. Yeah, attorneys, doctors, accountants, you know, any kind of professional service, investment folks that might like. Everyone likes, you know, fast cars in real estate. It's just everyone gets to talk about it. They get to drive by it. They can tell their friends about it. So everyone's thinking about investing in real estate all the time anyway, right? So what now might just be the good opportunity. So if you can get the right ad or get the right kind of display in front of these folks when they're just sitting around anyway, because maybe they're not in the office or whatever with the stay-at-home order, that's kind of our concept. And then just funnel them in. We built a pretty heavy backside Dispo piece to kind of our web presence so that folks can kind of come in and see all the data. You know, to your point, we've been digging really deep into making sure that our Dispo marketing has more information, is more complex, is like answers all of the questions that someone might have, like about it. You know, you have comps, you have market analysis, you have pretty good underwriting of the property.
You can see price in the picture, right? Price picture, like what is this, right?
Exactly. Well, especially if we're trying to go after folks that might not otherwise have been buying, that are now interested at getting in because they think it's a bigger discount right now, which it is, right? And so we need to educate them.
Are you taking these lists? You're basically uploading to Facebook for kind of retargeting purposes? Is that what you're doing?
Well, not only retargeting, but also direct targeting, right?
Direct email targeting.
Well, no, direct targeting on Facebook. So just ads.
Okay, that's what I meant, right?
Yeah, and then we'll drop them into Google for retargeting as well.
Gotcha.
And then we have not done a whole lot of email targeting to that group yet, but not to say that we wouldn't. We just haven't yet.
You might be interested to see the results because I'm sure you're getting the data anyway, right, from skip tracing it. Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah, we haven't dug deep. Well, and this is just on my side. I've never dug deep into the email data as part of the skip trace. We get it. I've just never really used it.
I haven't used it either because for sellers it's useless. I mean, unless you're getting like a very, very specific list, which actually did perform for us. We had the Addendum list, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And we did start a pretty kind of like very niche specific campaign on Facebook through the email addresses and, you know, because we get the full all data. So we're able to fully engage with them. So we did have some success. I don't think it converted as well as like, you know, something like PPC would, but I think it's worth experimenting with. But doing specific campaigns to a list like that, I think that's going to be, if it's not one of the biggest takeaways from this podcast, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody else is talking about this. And I was just on like 10 podcasts to webinars. So I think this is like really, really huge piece of data. And are you layering, just for people, you know, for the audience, are you layering with anything, or are you just pulling like high net worth individuals? Do they have a filter for like current real estate owned or anything like that?
No, as of right now, we're pulling it very broad, right? Because I just want to get out in front of a bunch of folks. Facebook ads are really cheap, especially for this niche, because not that many people are doing it. So what we did, we sat down about 3 weeks ago and said, holy cow, okay, we're going to pull back on our on our marketing from A to B, because we don't know who we're gonna be able to sell to. I'm from, you know, you're from the private equity world. I'm from the pretty high finance world. I knew the very first thing that's gonna happen is all the money was gonna pull out of the market, you know? And it's like, okay, well, even if they want to buy, a majority of our folks aren't going to be able to buy.
Lending home, lending one, locked up on the day of. I know people that are supposed to close, drawn docs.
Yeah.
Points went up, down payments went up as far as from the buyer, right? It's just you couldn't make it work. The economics didn't work out. So yeah, you're
100%. Yeah, we had a deal on our internal hard money side that was getting refied out by Lima, and they'd already pulled. Is that the same group?
Yeah, they're part of the three. Yeah.
Yeah. So they they'd already requested the payoff, and we were ready to close, I think, within 2 days, and everything was good. And then it was 90% loan to cost at that point for the borrower, right? And then it went to 60% loan to cost. Points jumped way up. They're like, we physically can't do that anymore. And this is a pretty pricey deal for our market. These folks had $100K into the deal, in cash into the purchase, on a $400,000 deal. So, or 500,000, but 400,000 in debt. But it was still, it's like, okay, these folks are putting down a pretty good amount of money and they're willing to put more in, but 60% was too rich, Yeah.
Another example is like, dude, all the iBuyers, that faucet, as soon as Wall Street got touched, that's where the money's coming from. All that money got froze up pretty quickly, dude. I mean, it's still there, but they're like, dude, we're not buying anything.
Yeah. I mean, the market dropped 37% in 4 weeks. It was crazy, Maybe bounced back quite a bit now. But my point is it's like, okay, well, we knew that was going to happen. So we said, hey, yeah, we can get a ton of buyer leads now. We can get a ton of, seller leads now, A2B leads. But if we can't move them, it doesn't matter. We're not going to inventory all these properties,
right?
Which we do. We've got pretty good capitalization in place, so we'll take down a fair amount of assets, but not when I don't know what the value is going to be. That's just not something we're super interested in doing. So we pulled back on marketing for a period until we could find out what the normal was, kind of who was buying. So we've been pulling weekly data on buyers, right? So weekly buyer data.
Melissa data or
what's that?
Melissa data specifically?
Well, our WW, as much as it's updated, we've been going to the tax records. CoreLogic has pretty good data. And then just through our MLS, we're able to get pretty up-to-date data. Our counties record pretty quickly. And a vast majority of everyone right now is doing digital recording, because they're not going to the courthouse. So that data is updating pretty quick. So we're going in and pulling it every week and saying, okay, who's still buying and where are they buying and what type of property and all of that. So we can kind of figure out what the new, ARV is or what the new value, what they're buying as, and then kind of try and back in and see what kind of discount they're actually looking for. So we've been digging super deep into that and, trying to figure out who's actually buying and then trying to prospect out who's going to be buying or who might, who has cash, who might be jumping into the market because they think it's an opportune time. And that's where we've been working these Facebook campaigns. And then we're bringing all that data back. We've been using REI Black Book, if you're familiar with them at all.
Yep.
They've got a really good Dispo side to their CRM. So
kind of built in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that more CRMs don't have a better backside. Almost all of them are on the front. But we've built it out in a custom version. I've got somebody that built out a custom version of the back end for us, and it's been fantastic. But we kind of bake it off of their platform and then do a custom version. And then our website kind of has all the assets, all the properties they can click on, and it gives them all that data. They can kind of, you're talking about all the financials, the actual cap rate, the actual NOI, and then all that. So, and then right up your alley, we were able to text market that stuff out to all the possible buyers. For the folks that opt in, primarily is what we're doing on the buyer side, but then if we can get some of these properties and actually kind of create a presentation, we can send them out on the marketing side too. So just some avenues that we've been really digging into that. I haven't heard anyone really talking about it. And I think it's going to be one of the make or break variables for folks in the next 3 or 4 months.
Absolutely. If they can figure it out. Cause I mean, a lot of people are just not used to that approach. They're used to that, whatever list they got a couple dudes that buy off of them. It's going to be either you make that pivot or you don't, but this
I think it's going to be the key point, right? I mean, cause the market's been so hot, especially in good markets like yours and Phoenix, anywhere on the West Coast, like things have just been hot, right? So if it goes out, it's being sold. Well, now folks are going to have to work. And I think they've almost been trained, or they've been able to be lazy on that front. And now they're going to have to ramp it back up fast, or else they're going to realize. And I think a lot of folks, specifically the folks that aren't in the masterminds like we are, that aren't doing a lot of deals, I bet you they've got a lot of deals in the pipe that they don't know aren't going to close. Like they think that deal's going, and they don't know that buyer's financing isn't in place.
Correct. I mean, we're finding that now. I mean, and then we've had pretty, you know, I would say not sophisticated, but pretty decent buyer list. But there's still people are backing out because, again, whether it's out of their control or because they're getting cold feet. I mean, we have EMD in on, I don't know, we have a total like 17, 18 deals that are in a pipe, right, between different stages, marketing. Some are signed, and some of the ones are signed. Dude, like our EMD is 5K, right? So like. One of them tried to walk, but we kind of talk him back into it. Said, what we had to resell a few deals that they walked on. Somebody that was going to basically close on it, but we're able to salvage those. But the ones we're marketing now, we're having a slightly different tone, right? But not to say that the buyers aren't out there. Just how much effort are you putting into finding out, you know, like the high net worth individuals, et cetera. But I think that point alone is very valuable. What kind of I think it's going to be the next question anybody would think of. What kind of copy or kind of graphic, what kind of ads are you using for those lists? Is it just like, you know, rental property specific, here it is, or are you interested in a rental property? Or
it's primarily rental. And honestly, it's so new. I mean, we are A, B, C, D testing things and just throwing a bunch of crap against the wall, waiting to see kind of what hits, what has the highest drive. You know, obviously the copy and just the general marketing scheme in general is going to be very different for a rental buyer than a rehab buyer, and who the audience that we're targeting is. But I've got a really good guy, actually, the guy that's helped me build out our backside for the Dispo side is also the one that's helping us kind of really dig through the copy and dig through the Facebook marketing stuff. And more so than going through an agency, it's like, okay, well, we want to be very, very hands-on, or we're looking at stuff daily. Just we need real-time data.
Yeah. No, makes sense. That's great. And I mean, I'm sure you can pull somebody off, you know, Upwork, whatever, Fiverr. But as long as, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty straightforward, right? And I'm sure you can share your copy, maybe whatever works at that point, because everybody's in a different market. But it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's like, look, you know, we have this property. What we've done when we try to market our stuff, and we are switching to a new disposition process now, where we're doing property-specific dispo on Facebook. Actually, let's show the property, price cap, right? Boom, 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 right? A couple of highlights. But this way, we're trying to target people that would be interested in that specific property in that specific area and eliminate a lot of the fluff right off the cuff. Because you don't want to get 20 leads and one guy is like a maybe, right? You just too much burn, churn and burn. We picked that up from our creative side because we would display creative properties that way as well. We would just put like, you know, rent to own, you know, lease option, whatever the case is, owner financing. Based on a property, we'll put like 15K down, which eliminates a lot of the people that are trying to buy the house for $1,000, right? It's just
right.
In conversations. So that's what we're testing, going property specific as we get one. Try to really hone in. You can't do it per zip code anymore. The Facebook guy we got, he's got some tricks up his sleeve. He's been doing it for 11 years. So he is still trying to zone in on that, you know, like kind of psychodemographic area, and as well as the audience. So, you know, as much as possible. But that's going to be either, you know, I think the final frontier in terms of B2C right now. Whether you can educate them, provide them enough value, and give them resources and everything they need to know about the property, they feel 100% comfortable. Because your competition won't be doing this.
Yeah, and that's the key. And that's just it. You know, it's the old, we say it all the time in the office, it's the old saying. It's like you got two guys at a campsite and a bear comes into the campsite and one guy starts lacing his tennis shoes up and like, what the hell are you doing? You're not going to outrun that bear. I don't have to. I just got to outrun you. You know, it's a relative game. You just got to be 1 or 2% better than everybody else, and you should come out ahead. Yeah. But no, so that's a big piece, and that's kind of why I just wanted to make sure we drove it home. So I knew you'd have some really good comments on that, and you know, there's some little tricks at small enough groups on Facebook. There's some tricks to kind of geographically target.
Just to add to that, Rob, just like as I'm thinking about it, and we did a presentation for our group also, but even going after, like, you know, pulling up lists, like reverse engineering the, you know, the cash bar aspect, you can even look up, you know, people that have guaranteed rent, right? People that are buying, like, think of like Section 8 landlords, that type of thing. You can go to like gosection8.com, you know, pull up a list, reverse engineer that. Dude, if you got Section 8 properties in Florida, I think it's like 1,250 is the max, or 1,300 or something like that per rent.
Yeah.
They're not worried about the rent payment. Guess what? Because the same people that just passed a $2 million, $2 trillion stimulus are paying for that shit. So doing that, we've tried even reverse engineering Rentometer, like the owners of the properties that are on there, right? Or any absentees that have 3 or 4 properties in a specific zip code.
Yeah.
Who's smart for that or whatever the data source you would use. And then see if you can back into that or if they're still active, right? Specifically in the past 12 months, because that's an indication that is potentially a landlord or somebody that may be still in the game to acquire. You just don't know when their jump off point is, right? Are they ready now or they're ready in a month from now?
Yeah. Or are they a seller, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like, hey, well, you know, not buy, are you selling?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Cause I mean, obviously in our world, as you well know, it's all right. We need to develop a system. We're going to run it. And then we got to be able to kind of hand it off to some degree and have someone on your team or a VA or VA group, like run it. And it's like, okay, well, who's already done this? Let's take it and start on second. But right now, in a changing time, the folks that can really kind of bring it in, stay close, analyze it like in real-time data are the folks I think are going to jump ahead right now.
Yep. Yeah, we have a deal analyst on our team specifically for that. He actually runs comps for our acquisition guys.
Yeah.
We don't spend time on it and we don't overshoot the deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have him doing this kind of stuff as well. He's putting together like the buyer information, and it's really dialed in as almost if this is how they would underwrite it themselves, right? Just providing value, saving the work.
Yeah. So two or three big takeaways here. I'd love to get that IRA data from you because I'll put that in the show notes and in the comments here. Yeah. And then I'll include stuff on REI Black Book, and I'll include, I don't think my guy's got any free time, but if he might. So if anyone wants any of those custom campaigns or if they want
maybe the copy
any of the Dispo stuff. Yeah. So I'll include that in here as well. So we can at least try and help some folks that want to bridge this up a little bit.